Sebastian Amern D'Amico is suffering with embryonal sarcoma in his right jaw, a cancer that affects only around 0.5% of people suffering from this sort of disease in general. While battling the pandemic, the young guy requests assistance in leaving the nation and finding a medical specialist who can perform surgery. Marino, in the western section of the province of Buenos Aires, is home to Sebastian Alejandro Amarin D'Amico, who's 23 years old and lives in Marino. When he was diagnosed with an embryonal rhabdomyosarcoma in the right upper jaw in 2015, he began medical therapy immediately. It's a rare cancerous tumor that affects just 0.5% of people with some form of malignant protrusion. Since then, he's been engaged in a protracted battle to regain his health, primarily soliciting assistance through social media. However, although he was successful in getting a doctor to take an interest in his case and the possibility of having an operation in the country was opened, the initial goal was to travel abroad to see a specialist, which was made more difficult by the closure of borders as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. In 2014, I began to notice a lump in my right jaw. At first, I believed it was a stone, but it grew larger over time, prompting me to seek medical attention at the Ramos Mejia Hospital. They made the decision to perform a biopsy at that point. I received the results in January 2015, and all of the data indicated that I had this sarcoma, which was conclusive. D'Amico shared his thoughts with Trending Story. Doctors suggest that he began receiving lightning treatment at the time, but he was unable to do so since he had to work because his mother had recently undergone heart surgery. That Buenos Aires party security camera had been reviewed by him since the municipality of Moreno had engaged him to do. At first, surgery was performed to remove the tumor, but the condition returned shortly after. Consequently, a second intervention was carried out in 2018, which was likewise unsuccessful in totally eliminating the malignant tissues. When he began experiencing difficulty in the same location again, the specialists agreed to schedule a fresh visit in the operating room, which, due to bureaucratic obstacles, was never able to take place as planned. He was told that they could not operate on the bump after 3 months of back and forth, and a committee of experts, which took another month to complete its examination of the case, told him they were unable to operate on it. They sent me a letter of recommendation, that contained all the incorrect information about me. I sought the advice of another doctor and began radiation therapy, but I was forced to discontinue treatment due to severe toxicity. I had to stop after the 7th session because of the agony. I was taking morphine every 4 hours at the time, he explained. They chose to admit him at the beginning of February because of his fragile state of health, and they began chemotherapy. However, the experts administered a hefty dose without realizing that they'd already done it in 2015, according to the report. They called my family one Sunday and said, "Enjoy Sebastian because we don't know whether it will happen tonight." I was entirely unconscious during all this. As soon as I was out of the hospital, they informed me that there was nothing else they could do for me because the bone marrow was ready to stop working as a result of the treatment. They sent me back to my hometown to die, he expressed his dissatisfaction. By that point, D'Amico had grown bored of the hospitals and had decided that he did not want any further treatments. However, he changed his mind at the end of 2019 and decided to continue fighting. He reasoned that if there was no one in Argentina who could assist him, perhaps there was someone in another country who had been trained to provide such assistance. His wife shared his experience through several videos on Instagram, where he has more than 16,000 followers, and each of his publications receives hundreds of likes. And she set up a CBU account in his mother-in-law's name to receive donations, which have already surpassed 220,000 pesos. In Los Angeles, there's a facility called the Cancer Center, where a specialist who specializes in head and neck cancer works with patients. There's also a very good one in Manhattan that's not to be missed. Our campaign is now underway, but due to the coronavirus outbreak and the rising value of the dollar, things have become considerably more problematic, he explained. As noted in a conversation with Trending Story, the medical oncologist Ernesto Gildeza, embryonic sarcoma of the right jaw represents just 0.5% of tumors that can be created by malignant cells, making it a rare condition that typically manifests itself before the age of 20. In this particular instance, there's no obvious reason for it to occur. It's not as if you can point to a virus or any other ailment and say, "Well, that's because of this." There isn't a lot of information available about it, the specialist explained. Gildeza, on the other hand, stated that the life expectancy for patients with this type of sarcoma is extremely dismal due to the fact that the tissues tend to develop very quickly and metastasize, despite the fact that he explained that there are certain techniques to fight this particular malignancy. According to the doctor, highlighted that the chemotherapy can be used and prescribed for some specific chemicals that aim to totally dry up the tumor, but the outcome of the treatment would be very dependent on how the individual responds to it. What happens is that this type of sarcoma has a high rate of recurrence, and it's difficult to eradicate it completely, making it tough to operate, even in the greatest healthcare facilities, according to the oncologist. Gildiza commented on this subject, stating that these are very complex surgeries in which it's important to preserve the functionality of the face, as well as, to the extent feasible, the natural line of the facial features. Sebastian, despite the fact that he's aware of the difficulties of his situation, does not give up hope, and as a result of the widespread distribution of his Instagram videos, the young man has received what could be a life-changing opportunity. Dr. Eduardo Sosa, a plastic surgeon who currently resides in another country, has contacted him and assembled a whole team of specialists in Buenos Aires to attend him for free. As Sosa explained during a live broadcast with D'Amico, it's important to remember that this is about health and that in order to generate a surgical intervention, which will be done if God wills it, everything will depend on the conditions of the patient, because the surgery can be very successful and still harm him. It's important, according to the professional, to have an objective scientific criterion and see in what state the injury is in order for the oncologist to determine whether the intervention can be performed and whether it will be curative or palliative, that is, to improve the quality of life for the young man. In a nutshell, it's required to conduct an investigation before proceeding. You have the determination. I've prepared the entire team to be able to assist you, and in the event that the operation can be performed, there are other options available to you. He went on to say more. For the time being, Sebastian has stated that he will meet with an oncologist this week to learn how his condition is improving and to be informed if he is approved for surgery. To tell the truth, this new opportunity makes me extremely happy, and it gives me great pride to know that there are surgeons who are willing to perform the intervention, but I must keep my feet on the ground and understand that many studies must be conducted, even if I have a strong desire to operate, D'Amico said of the new assistance that's appeared. What is rhabdomyosarcoma and how does it affect you? Cancer begins when cells in the body begin to grow out of control and become uncontrollable. It's possible for cancerous cells to develop in practically any part of the body, and for cancer to spread to other parts of the body. See What is Cancer for further information on the origins and progression of cancer. Cancer in Children provides information on the differences between juvenile malignancies and adult cancers. For further information, visit Cancer in Children. As their name implies, sarcomas are malignancies of connective tissues in the body that arise from connective tissues in other parts of the body, such as muscles, fat, bones, the lining of joints, or blood vessels. Sarcomas are classified into 7 categories. Rhabdomyosarcoma, RMS, is a form of sarcoma that develops from cells that ordinarily develop into skeletal, voluntary muscles. Rhabdomyosarcoma is a rare cancer that affects the skeletal muscles. These are the muscles that we use to move various portions of our body. Rhabdomyoblasts, the cells that will eventually form skeletal muscles, begin to form in the womb several months before birth. These are the cells that have the potential to differentiate into RMS. Given that this is a cancer of very early kinds of muscle cells, children are considerably more likely than adults to have it, but it does occur in adults on occasion. Although we tend to conceive of our skeletal muscles as being mostly in our arms and legs, RMS can manifest itself almost anywhere in the body, including regions of the body that do not ordinarily contain skeletal muscle, such as the head and neck. The following are examples of RMS-affected areas: the cranium and the neck, such as near the eye, inside the nasal sinuses or throat, or near the spine and the neck. Organs of urination and reproduction, bladder, prostate gland, or any female organs. Arms and legs are included. Trunk, chest, and abdomen. Rhabdomyosarcoma in adults is a cancer of the muscle. Rhabdomyosarcomas are most commonly found in children and adolescents, but they can also develop in adults. Adults are more likely than children to have RMS that grows more quickly and to have it in areas of the body that are more difficult to cure. As part of a result, RMS in adults is typically more difficult to treat effectively.